listening to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Ever since COVID, what we know to be the norm is rapidly changing. In order to adapt to this, your business must adjust and transform accordingly. For pharmacies, unlocking the profession's potential to improve patient care is where this opportunity lies. Today's product-focused role of the pharmacist calls for the industry to move toward clinical services. The focus will be on prevention over treatment, and care will happen in the home or community. As accessible and trusted healthcare personnel, pharmacists can play a big role. Happier at Home harnesses this opportunity by showing the benefits of expanding your pharmacy into home care services and how this is a recipe for success. Innovation and growth will help community pharmacies to continue to exist and thrive in the future.
We are back again with Happier at Home, PRN, a new podcast in partnership with Happier at Home. I ran into this dynamo, somebody that just makes me excited to be around her, a leader in healthcare. Debbie Marcello, this is your second episode. I get kind of chills when we have podcasts that are growing up, and more than just growing, you are providing a service that I am excited to talk about. And if you weren't here, which you're the perfect person to do this, I would have found another way to get this information to community pharmacy owners, because this is really the future. It really is. But welcome to your own podcast again. Let me be
Thank
here.
you so much. Podcast number 2. We're on the books. I'm very excited about it. And Todd, thank you so much for welcoming me into the pharmacy community and helping those community pharmacists to expand into additional sources of revenue. And that's what we're talking about on Happier at Home PRN, looking for ways for community independent pharmacy owners to be viable, to make sure that you're not standing still, so you're always growing. And joining us today is a very, very special guest, as he was one of my very first franchisees and owners of Happier at Home, Trent Voelkel. He is from my hometown, or my home state of New York, another hour and a half west of us in Buffalo, home of the Buffalo Bills, who are doing okay right now, right, Trent?
Keep our fingers crossed. Every day's a new battle.
It's always a nail biter with them.
Also the home of 8-foot snowdrifts out of nowhere that they just magically appear on the highway. So you're
yes,
well, that's
terrible.
actually south of Buffalo, but yes, if you incorporate metro, yes, but typically where the majority of the population lives, we don't get that snow, thankfully.
I have looked at pathways to different parts of New York from Pittsburgh, where I'm at, and when I get from 79 to 80 and then 90.
Once you hit Erie, you're done.
Exactly. That's where the snow squalls come into. And Debbie, you can go well, you live there. You can go from literally no snow, and with an hour, you have 2 feet that come off the waterway.
Yes, thanks to Lake Erie. But then where I am in Rochester, New York, Lake Ontario, when we get the snow coming from the north down toward the south, we get hit pretty hard, but not as bad as that snow belt that's south of Trent. So, but we push through it all.
We know how to deal with it. It doesn't really hinder us too much. It just slows us down and stuff like that. But
yeah,
there's no utopic area. Everybody's got something.
Yes.
Whether it be hurricanes, mudslides, tornadoes, earthquakes, whatever. Everybody's got something.
You got it. I'll take it. I love it up here with the Finger Lakes too. But the reason we're bringing Trent to the podcast today is because he's lived through the experiences of owning pharmacies, which he still does with his family, and he'll tell you more about that. But also, he's very entrepreneurial. Trent and I connected probably about 5-6 years ago now. And he is owner of 3 Happier at Home franchises. And so I want our listeners out there to understand how Trent came about the decision to connect with me and connect with Happier at Home. What his experience has been like, some of the benefits, ups and downs, things like that. We're going to talk about what his journey's been like so you can understand what things would be like for you. And I like you to hear it from a person who's been through it, someone who understands the pharmacy aspect of it, and then also understands how being a Happier at Home business owner is a natural progression with the independent pharmacy owners. So, Trent, how about you give us a background of yourself and also your pharmacies?
Sure. So I'm as Debbie had mentioned, Buffalo native, born and raised. My family's been in the pharmacy business. The company was started by my father well over 50 years ago. He had always been of the retail pharmacy market. And over the years, we had accumulated through the 80s and into the 90s, 9 independent pharmacies. And as chains started becoming more prevalent and prolific throughout the area, competition, obviously, for prescriptions and whatnot was becoming more and more difficult. So when that started to arise, we were looking for different sources of revenue. So at that point in time, we had decided that, and this is before I had really gotten into the business, to start with home medical equipment. So we started a home medical equipment division and did that and have grown that successfully. And then as, competition with pharmacies continued to increase, we started selling off those stores just because it was impossible to compete with the big box pharmacies that are out there. And to be honest with you, pharmacies become somewhat of a commodity. I mean, everybody, there's a, as a rule of thumb, as the crow flies from you within a 3-mile area, you're going to hit a pharmacy. So, getting people to walk through your doors wasn't as easy. They didn't value the relationship with their pharmacist as much. It became more of a convenience factor. So with that being said, we started to sell off some of our retail stores and then got into long-term care pharmacy. Servicing assisted living facilities, group homes, skilled nursing, rehabilitation centers. And we've grown that very nicely over the years. One of the largest independents in Western New York. And our footprint with regard to long-term care pharmacy, we go all the way down into Pennsylvania. We've got an operation in Syracuse. So we service, basically from Utica all the way to Buffalo and all the way down into Pittsburgh. So,
including Rochester, New York, over here.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And again, competition, because other people, it's not that we were innovative in finding something that was unique to us. Competition with regard to long-term care pharmacy then started to become more difficult. And in addition, the revenue stream with regard to the PBMs and all the fees and withholds that the insurance companies are doing and the red tape, the margins became slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. So we were looking for another venture to kind of morph into. And, with the medical equipment and that, we'd always had lots of customers coming in saying, I've got a elderly parent or I've got this neighbor that, really shouldn't be on their own, or they need help with this, or they need help going to their doctor's appointment or getting their groceries and stuff like that. Do you guys know of anybody? And we kept hearing that over and over again. It was a recurring theme. And finally, I went to my brother and father, who I'm in the business with, and said, I think we should really look at getting into companion care. And originally, the two of them were like, "Oh God, do we really want to get into that? That's such a, you hear the horror stories, that getting caregivers is impossible, and that dealing with the scheduling and stuff like that. I think that turns a lot of people off." And I'm like, no, you know what? Let's dip our toes into this and see. I mean, the investment, getting involved with it was very, it's not small, but it's not a large investment. You're not putting a lot of skin in the game to really get this going.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to go and venture into it, and we were going to originally do it ourselves. And I was just doing.
And I've done that, Trent, starting it in 2007 from ground up, and I will never start another business ground up myself.
Exactly.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and especially the number of years that you put in the beginning if you're starting something from ground up, for the trial and error. Right. And the money that you lose doing that. So,
correct.
Yeah. Yep.
So we were originally going to, do it ourselves, and figuring, all right, there's no regulations per se, where you have to get certified for this level of care and stuff. And so I started Googling, franchises that do this, just to see, if I could kind of basically get some information to see, all right, what is it that I don't know? And at that time, I came across Debbie's franchise in Rochester, and just got it. And what really drew me to it is the fact that it was in Rochester. It wasn't, somewhere in the Midwest that I'd have to travel to. It would be easy and convenient to talk to somebody, and there's a comfort factor being that it's somebody local in that. So reached out.
You might have even, sorry to interrupt you. I was thinking we may have even connected initially on LinkedIn. You may have saw one of the videos that I've created for education, and even one of the videos of me on my Fox News appearances.
Yep.
Possibly.
Yep. And at that time, I'd spoken with her lead person who was helping her to get the franchises and stuff like that. So I had a great conversation with them and stuff like that. And learned how, what to expect. And really, Debbie and her team really gave us, a very clear and concise. It wasn't, everything, with rose-colored glasses or anything like that. It was a realistic, okay, this is what it's going to be. This is what you're going to have to do. But if you do what we're doing, because we've been doing it ourselves and it works, you'll be successful. So we decided to make the investment, and we went for our training. The training was great, very streamlined. There was no wasted time or anything like that. I think actually we did have a snowstorm during.
We did. Yes, I remember that.
During the one for a couple of the days.
We had people up from Texas. We had a franchise starting in Texas the same time.
One
also, Boca Raton, Florida, Orlando, Florida.
Yep.
You. And so for all of you together, I know that we had the folks from down south staying in a hotel, and the hotel lost their power as a result of our snowstorm. But I have to say, one of them, the one who actually is from Orlando, he was out in the snow making snow angels, and
Jim.
He's never done that. Yes, Jim. Jim, I hope he's doing great.
So I just wanted to say, so when with regard to the training and stuff like that, when we went through it, they had everything organized beautifully. Everything was streamlined, and they went through it. It's not a complicated process whatsoever. Debbie and her team have really fine-tuned everything, and everything that you need is right there at your hands, and it's very easy to access. The way that they present and show you how to do things, whether it be from back end office to recruitment to marketing, to doing your scheduling, your payroll, all these things. They have everything figured out. And they've chosen great companies to partner with to make it as seamless and easy as possible, so that for the independent pharmacy owner who thinks, oh God, I don't have the time to do this. If you already have a business, this model fits in beautifully because you already are doing so much of the time consuming work already in your existing business. Adding this to it is so streamlined and easy. It really only maybe adds a half hour of time for whoever's doing your payroll or whoever's,
Yeah, it's
doing
seamless.
those things. Yes,
We
really
have those
is.
processes. That's the important part, is to have myself. I'm a very analytical but process driven person. So making sure that we have those steps in place. And even when you were talking with us before you decided to move forward, that is a whole process in itself.
Correct.
We want to make sure that you're asking the right questions. And if you don't think about them, we're going to bring those things up too.
Mhm.
So initially, you had some reasons of expanding into home care because you saw the changes on the horizon. And so
Mhm.
now, 5 years later, you went from owning one franchise of Happier at Home to 3 locations.
Right.
And can you identify any additional benefits in comparison to what you thought your initial investment was going to be for? Can you identify any additional benefits now that you're 5 years into it?
Yeah, I mean, we thought that it would provide, a little extra income, and it's actually providing a substantial amount of income. And once you get, your key people in place, once you get to a certain level, the amount of money that you can make is limitless, which is great. That's number one. Number two, you're not dealing with insurance companies. You're dealing with people who you bill them for 2 weeks of service and they pay you within a week, and you're not waiting for things. You're not having to deal with audits or anything of that nature. So really, we were surprised at how quickly things grew. And being in a pharmacy business, you've already got a built-in referral base right there. You've already got a substantial number of potential clients that you can it's not that you're trying to nickel and dime them and get them at every corner, but it's a matter of that you're becoming a more complete centric provider for their healthcare needs.
You're the one-stop shop. And I do have to say, Trent, though, to your credit, you're saying, yes, you could earn a lot of money and you were surprised at how quickly you were able to ramp up. That's because you followed the processes. You listened and you followed everything. You didn't just buck the system every step of the way. So Trent is awesome. Don't let him just say we're awesome. He's doing Trent. An incredible job. Yes, I really.
And to Debbie's point, she has figured out what to do, and there's really, you don't have to buck the system because she's tried pretty much everything that's out there. And, she's always open to new suggestions. I know I've given a number of suggestions to her on different things, and she's, given us different suggestions. But, when she tells you who you should be targeting for marketing, that's who you should be targeting. Don't waste your time on other things, because she's been in the business longer than anybody. She knows where your business is going to come from and what your biggest success rate is going to be. And, fine, if in the beginning you want to go with where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck and get things up and going. Then after that, if you want to go to some of the outlier things that are not as fruitful, but yet you want to dip your toe into those areas, then great. But initially, you want to get a solid base of business going. And if you follow what she's telling you and the areas to concentrate on, you will absolutely do that.
Great.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much. Yes.
So there was an article that just came out December 12th. It's from Home Healthcare News, homehealthcarenews.com. It says nearly 1 in 4 adults age 50 and above said that they or a loved one needed long-term care or home care services in the past year. And it goes on to really state how there is a very explicit need in the United States for extra home care services. And it ranges from skilled care, which back in the day, this is very serendipitous. But Trent, I'm very proud that you and I and our organizations, we've kind of done business in ways before on the technology side of things. But you were kind of ahead of the game in foreseeing things that were happening in the balance between assisted living, long-term care, skilled care, and where your business was thriving and fitting as experts within delivering that kind of pharmacy services. And I think that made it easier for you to now implement Happier at Home because you already knew what your administrators were looking for, what family members were looking for. And now we've combined this expert that already did it in a home care. We fused Debbie with Trent. And I think you guys are two special individuals. But for our listeners, this is a huge opportunity for you to do things for your community that it needs. We just read Home Healthcare News, one of the leading healthcare news organizations, are screaming, saying we need more qualified healthcare professionals to get into delivering more healthcare services, home care services. And what's interesting about community pharmacy is it's primed to make this transformation and stop calling yourself a retail pharmacy because you're not. That's left for the commodity. Let's leave that for the big chains out there. You are not retail pharmacy. You are community pharmacy. You are long-term care pharmacy. You are special care pharmacy. Whatever you want to call yourself, but please don't put yourself in a commodity-driven, because commodity-driven, we're leaving that and we're going to start adding in a lot more cash-based opportunities to grow a pharmacy business. But more importantly, you have to.
Yep.
And more importantly, what Debbie believes in is delivering the type of services that those shut-ins or those seniors or those people that have nobody else to take care of them. And now community pharmacy, who has the heart for that anyway, they can deliver something that has been packaged for them. So you don't have to sit there and guess at it.
Correct.
They're not only, it's made for them, and these community pharmacy owners and community pharmacy locations have developed that trust from their customers. You've developed a relationship. So what Trent has done and his team, instead of just continuing and trying to keep their head above water, they've looked on the horizon to see what was coming. They paid attention to their numbers. They paid attention to economically what's happening with insurance companies and strategized around that. So that's what our goal is, for our business owners to become that one-stop shop, because you can be the resource for those long-term care facilities when they discharge someone home. So they're going to have a safe discharge. You could be the resource for the doctor's offices that use your services now, but have problems with their patients not showing up because they can't drive anymore, or that they're not compliant with their medications and they keep on being bounced back into the hospital as a result of that, or even into nursing homes. So, Trent, let me ask you, so you're a busy guy. You operate and help run your pharmacies and also Happier at Home. How do you manage your pharmacy responsibilities while owning a Happier at Home care business?
Well, we've got, in the Buffalo Pharmacies arena, we've got over 150 employees. So thankfully, we've got a strong back office that is doing a lot of the things that allow me to be able to venture off and, expand on the Happier at Home and that. But, if you've got a good support network in your office, then you're going to be totally fine with this. For example, I keep saying, when people that I've spoken to that Debbie's put me in touch with, like, oh God, now I've got to do another payroll thing. And, this is going to be, so much more time that I'm doing. then when I explained the process that, well, not really, because the scheduling software automatically imports into your payroll, which then automatically just generates it and you just have to approve it. So I'm like, you're already doing it. So it's just now a matter of you're doing it for another company, but it's everything transfers through. There's no manual process. Everything is done digitally. So it's maximized to the biggest degree that it can be. And it really, from a back end standpoint, doesn't take a lot of your time, especially when you're first starting out. It wasn't until about 350 hours that we were doing that we decided to get a person who would be based, general manager, office manager for Happier at Home. And now, she's a full-time employee and she is, fielding a lot of the calls and she's doing a lot of the, the onboarding of people and, some of the marketing and all of those sorts of things. So, you've got to do it in stages, but when you're under, 250 hours, it's very manageable to do. It's not going to take you a tremendous amount of time. I mean, if you get one, 24/7 client, that's 168 hours in a week. You're almost at the point where you're going to hire somebody that's going to do it. The biggest thing that I can say that is the most important is that whoever you have, once you get to that level, the person has to be extremely detail orientated and have excellent communication skills and be very diligent with regard to their paperwork. If you can have that, then everything is going to be seamless. And, we had a person in the past who was not that way, and things would get slipped through the cracks and you'd have problems and customers saying, well, wait a minute, this day was not there and stuff like that. You have to have organization. And if you've got that person there, you as an owner are not going to have a lot of additional headaches that are coming your way.
And we want it.
There's a personality to this that I kind of want to point out for our listeners. And that is, when we go to different people for subject matter expertise, even though we as individuals have been successful, and everybody listening to this podcast has been successful in some realm, the fact that they are getting their PharmD, for goodness sakes, what you put yourself through financially and mentally to get your to become a pharmacist in the first place, it's just amazing. But Trent was a successful pharmacy owner. He did not have to deviate and or take a back seat from his own personality, his own knowledge, his own business success, his own ego, in order to take the time to soak in the processes and the model and the franchise belief and like the whole structure, and then baking it so that it works for him, so that when you start expanding your business, Trent, into Pennsylvania, into other states, into Texas, into wherever else you're going, you're bringing this with you, so that you can say to your EBITDA numbers, your CPA, the financial side of things, you can say, based on our success in New York, we are now anticipating, based on demographics, based on workforce, based on prescription volume, that we know that we could pull in additional business just in home care services.
Correct.
That gets me so excited.
Correct. And it's in this country, nursing homes and assisted living facilities, people are kind of morphing away from bringing a family member into those settings.
Yes.
And they're waiting longer and longer to get a family member into that type of setting. And the only way to do that is to have a company like Happier at Home that is going to be able to bridge that gap. And obviously, there's certain level at what point, Happier at Home will have to step away from the needs of the client when they become over and above what we're allowed to do. But by and large, we can keep people in their homes living as independent as possible, albeit with some help from us. And family members can feel comfortable knowing that mom and dad or their aunt or uncle, whoever it may be, their neighbor, is being taken care of, and that that they're safe, and that their health needs and their psychological needs and their physical needs are all being met with not much effort on their part. And it's a great sense of satisfaction from, as a business owner, being able to not only help people with, their medications or their medical equipment, but also being more hands-on and being able to allow them to have that ability to stay in their home that much longer rather than to have to give that up.
It gives such a great feeling. I know that when I was working in my business 15 years ago, there was a gentleman who had an allergic reaction, and he went to his doctor. The doctor put him on Benadryl every 8 hours. Never had a discontinue order. So my caregiver called and said, I don't know what's wrong with him. He just is so sleepy. He won't get off the couch. And so the benefit of having her have those eyes on him really helped him, because after that, it was going to just be a cascade of problems if he did not know to discontinue that medication. Mm-hmm. So on a daily basis, we're helping people and impacting people's lives in a positive manner, being able to also maintain your customer base for your pharmacy. I know we need to wrap it up here, but Trent, do you have any situations of a personally rewarding story that you've encountered in owning your Happier at Home business?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had a number of, long-term clients that have been with us over the years, and, we've seen them, from the time that we took them to, unfortunately, to the time that a lot of them, pass away. And, there is a sense of satisfaction when, the family member or the family calls you and just says, thank you so much for allowing, or being with, my family member during these past couple of weeks, months, could be however long, and letting them be able to be at home, or letting them, be comfortable and to be able to pass at their own home, and to make it easier for their family as well, knowing that they weren't alone, that they were being taken care of, even though, their kids might be out of town or something like that. They're thankful that we were there to care for their loved ones and, help them in that transition to the, to the next stage. So that's very, very rewarding. It's nice. The caregivers love the fact that they're able to establish that relationship with, the family and stuff like that. A lot of them continue to have that communication, even though, that family member is no longer with us. And, that's something that's special, that, when your caregivers are treated like family of the people that they're taking care of, that means you're doing something right.
It's so nice. I know. I actually still maintain a file of cards and letters and thank you notes that I've received over the years, because our caregivers are incredible. So, boy, I love talking with you today, Trent. I could never hear enough about everything that you've accomplished.
Gotta have them back.
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Be happy to.
I would love that.
You have all been listening to a special podcast. This is nice to be able to bring together what Debbie has built in specifically now for community pharmacy, and someone who has actually executed it. If you want to look up more information and you want to get in touch with Debbie, I encourage you to do so. This is, even talking with her about expanding your business is going to bring a lot of new ideas to you as a community pharmacy owner. HappierAtHomeFranchise.com. Once again, happieratHomefranchise.com, all spelled out. Their link to this page will be in the show notes. But Debbie, I love talking to you. Every time I talk, every time I talk to you, I get like jazzed up. But then now you bring Trent to the table, and like I'm going to be on a high for the rest of the day.
He's pretty awesome. Yeah, I am too. And it makes me so happy. This is why I started this franchise, is to bring this really incredible, unique business model to other people, and for you to be able to use it in your community and help others. So, and make some money while you're doing it, which is wonderful.
Let's make more money. Let's make more money in 2023.
Let's do it. Now's the time. Actually, you got to be strategizing. Get going on it. All right.
Trent, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next time on Happier at Home, PRN.